SpectreVision Radio.
I was trying to get home before midnight or something, so 11:30 at night maybe. I woke up the next morning pretty far from home, and I had no idea where the heck I was. And I woke up in the early morning hours. I heard birds chirping and the sun was coming up. And I was parked in front of a small lake, not the big lake that I lived on. I had no idea where I was. I felt like crap. And I was in the driver's seat of the car, and I was right up at the shore of this lake, but it was in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing around. It was just uh, country and a little dirt road that led up into the lake, and there was nothing else there. And I woke up. I was totally confused, no idea where the heck I was. Then all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh my God, what am I doing? Dad's gonna kill me. I'm supposed to be home.
With infinite complaisance, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Even though I tried to engage with my friends to talk about this, and nobody wanted to delve into this with me. It's like, no, it was a UFO. We saw a UFO. They just did. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Well, uh, something else happened to me, and I call this one the Lost in the Fog, which uh, I don't know. This is a head scratcher for me to this day. I just do not know exactly what happened, but it was 1979. I was 18 years old, summer. So I believe that I had graduated from high school at this point. And one night I needed to ask my father to borrow his car because uh, I wanted to go see my friends in town. My parents, my father and my stepmother bought a house on the lake out of town, and I had all my friends. I went to high school in town, and all my friends, for the most part, well, I knew other people outside of the area, but most of my good friends were in town. So I would commute back and forth from town out to the house. That was my normal routine. And it was always one direction, one road that I would take to go back and forth because otherwise I'd have to drive all around this big lake. And so there's really was only one direction to easily get into town and back. And I borrowed the car. My dad said he needed to do something. He wanted me to get home at a reasonable time because he had things to do and he didn't want me out late or whatever driving his car around. And he said something he had to do in the morning. So I'm like, okay, I'm just, it's just a routine thing. It was not any, I can't even remember exactly what I did that night because it was just a normal thing that I would do, either go see my friends or maybe my girlfriend or whatever, but nothing nor out of the normal. It was just a normal routine thing that I was doing, go and hang out with some friends or maybe go play some foosball or pinball somewhere. But I had no big plan to do anything. And on my way home, I knew that I needed to get home. My dad could be intimidating. I love my dad. I don't want to make him say he was a good dad, but he was 6 foot 2. He was a tough man. If I got home real late, he'd be sitting there waiting for me, probably in the dark or something. So and my friends, I remember them going. I'd be like, I gotta go home, man. They'd be like, come on, chill out. I'm like, no, my dad's gonna get mad. And then when my friends actually saw my dad mad, they're like, "Wow, your dad's scary when he's mad." I'm like, "Yeah, no kidding. I've been trying to tell you guys that." They're always like, "Oh, stay out later," But I was on my way home, and as just a normal, I could drive this. I mean, I drove to school and back every day that way. I was always taking this road, and it was just a normal routine drive. I could drive in my sleep almost, going home back and forth from there. And I don't know why I did this, but on the way home, I veered off and started to drive out into uh, out into the country instead of going directly home. I just turned off, and I think it was called Dutch Hollow Road. And out in Dutch Hollow Road, there's nothing there but farms and country, and rolling hills. And there was no reason for me to go out there. And I didn't consciously sit there and think about why I did it. I just started to drive that way. And somewhere as I got up into further out, I drove into a really thick bank of fog. And I remember, at that point, as I was driving, I couldn't see anything, and I just became really disoriented. And oddly, I wasn't like panicking or thinking, "Oh my God, I need to turn the car around" or anything, which you would think you're like, "Oh, what the hell am I doing? Why I got to go? What am I doing out here?" It didn't really, nothing really sounded an alarm or anything other than somewhere as I was driving, I felt like I was no longer driving the car and that I was like floating or something, which sounds really strange to say, but could be that I had deprivation. I couldn't see anything. I didn't, I wasn't hearing anything. It just got weird. It became like, this, I felt like it was surreal. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't I'm confused. I don't know what I'm doing. And the next thing I remember, I woke up. Now this was probably like 11 o'clock, and I was trying to get home before midnight or something. So 11:30 at night, maybe. And I woke up the next morning pretty far from home, and I had no idea where the heck I was. And I woke up in the early morning hours. I heard birds chirping, and the sun was coming up. And I was parked in front of a small lake, not the big lake that I lived on. I had no idea where I was. I felt like crap, and I was in the driver's seat of the car, and I was right up at the shore of this lake, but it was in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing around. It was just uh, country and a little dirt road that led up into the lake, and there was nothing else there. And I woke up, I was totally confused, no idea where the heck I was. And that was, then all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh my God, what am I doing? Dad's gonna kill me. I'm supposed to be home. And problem was I didn't have GPS, I didn't have a cell phone back then. I didn't know where I was, so I started driving around aimlessly out in Amish country in the middle of nowhere. And I came across somebody, and I was trying to ask him where "Hi, can you tell me where I am?" You know, and they told me that I was, you know, at a place called Bear Lake, Pennsylvania. So when I was driving out off of this, veered off of the road, I was heading northbound. I ended up south of the other side, on the other side of the lake. The lake is like, God, I don't know, 20 miles long or more, maybe, around. And so if you wanted to get on the other side of the lake, you'd have to drive all the way around the circumference of the lake. And I mean, there's no reason I would. I've never been to this place. I didn't know where I was. I was looking at the map now. I think I tried to send you a picture of. I didn't want to send you too much stuff of where this little lake was. It's just a little round-looking lake, but it's across, just across the Pennsylvania border. And of course, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Trying to get oriented and get myself back home was I was panicking and trying to drive around, figure out where I was, and I couldn't. I had no idea what the heck was going on. But when I finally figured out where I was, uh, I was trying to get home as fast as I could. Of course, my dad was really, really mad at me, and he was waiting for me, and he was pissed off at me, and the only thing I could tell him, he was, I think he was trying to get his hands on me. I believe I was like trying to throw him the car keys and skirt around him out in the driveway when he's like, "I told you," and the only thing I could tell him is, I got lost in the fog. And he's like, "Oh, you're lost in the fog. All right, young man." I just, and of course, my
Yeah.
siblings thought it was hilarious. Nobody believed me. So I didn't. I just scratched my head and never could understand why or how that happened, what happened, and I guess unless I get hypnotized and try to be regressed, I won't know because I have total memory block of anything from the point where I'm like thinking I feel like I'm floating to waking up in the morning, which would have been 5 hours, 6 hours later, or at least, or I don't know. I woke up probably 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever, sunrise, out in the middle of nowhere.
What do you
Is what.
mean by you felt like crap?
I woke up. My head was on the steering wheel. I was, I just woke up. I had a pounding headache. I just felt disoriented and nauseated. Just, I just, and I was so confused. I mean, and then of course realizing, oh my gosh. Then once I realized Dad's gonna be mad, I mean, that became my all thing. Like I gotta get home my dad's gonna kill me. Um, I just didn't know what happened, and I still don't. But it wasn't normal.
Now, I'm not
That much,
saying
yeah,
I'm not saying this accounts for, you, especially since the whole reason you left in a rush was because you didn't want your dad to, kill you. Dad's going to kill me.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
were you guys drinking at all? Would that account for some of the headache and nausea and things
Well,
like that?
I thought about that, but because usually that would be on a weekend thing, and this was my dad had to be. My dad, well, driving my dad's car, that was a big to do. So,
Yeah.
and my dad wanted me home early, and I knew my dad would be up waiting for me. So I was, if I did have something, which I don't think, because I think I was with my girlfriend and she didn't drink at all. And my buddies, a lot of times if we got together, first of all, I didn't even like taste the beer much. I was the guy that was always spilling it out and let my other friends get goofier than me oftentimes. But it's a possibility that I may have had something, but I don't believe that that evening that I did because, again, like I said, I my dad told me he wanted me home at a reasonable time, and if he saw that I was drinking, driving his car, and that he would have been really upset with me, and so I don't think that I was. But I've thought about that before too. I was like, was I hungover? I'm like, I don't believe so. But then again, I just because obviously, if I was really drunk, and they go, well, I drove off that would make sense, right? But I don't believe that that was the case. I wish I could remember exactly photographic memory, but again, like I say, it was just a normal, just a regular day, evening, or whatever that was not all that interesting. But when you're a teenager, you get bored. You don't want to be stuck at home doing nothing. So I just wanted to get out of the house and go do something. But yeah, it's weird. That's that. I don't know. Anything else you?
Oh, you
Any
know me.
thoughts?
I will get on this mic if I have something to say. Don't you worry. You know
All
me
right,
by
all right.
now.
Well, yes, indeed. Well, that was, of course, yes. My father was very angry, and I wasn't going to be asking to borrow his car anytime soon after that.
Yeah, I'd imagine not. You were
And
cut off for a little while.
yeah, and of course, after that summer, I ended up leaving to go off to art school. So, which I went without a car for a few years, taking a bus. But we yeah, it's just one of them things. I just scratched my head, but my siblings thought it was hilarious seeing how angry my father was
Mm.
at me. They thought that was fun, Oh, he got dad really mad at him. Let's watch this.
Siblings are the best.
Oh, you gotta love it, right? I thought I would just talk about some of the. So after thinking about my early childhood incidents that happened, which would have been 1965 and 1966. I thought, I wonder. I remembered hearing, we didn't have the internet. People didn't typically talk about the subject, but I do remember hearing little snippets of stories of people go, "Oh yeah, there was a UFO thing that happened over there, down there, or whatever." So I started to look into that. Actually, just this recent times, this past year, looking into the history of the area and what was going on at that time, and I realized that the entire country was having a flap of UFO sightings in the mid 60s going on, for one thing. And then it says Western New York and the state of New York saw an increase of UFO reports beginning around 1965. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And some of these are really interesting. So if you don't mind me talking, they don't directly correlate to me, except for the timing of when I believe things were happening to me happens to be right at the same time. And these things are connected to right directly near the area that I was growing up in. And actually, some people from my hometown were involved. Um, I had wrote down a number of just cases which were really, I mean, interesting to say the least. August 1965, Cherry Creek, New York. There was a farm boy named Harold Butcher. He was a teenager, and he saw an object. He was milking cows out in his barn, little dairy farmers out there in Cherry Creek, New York, which is just outside of my hometown area. And he heard the cows, a bull, making a bunch of noise outside that was tied up in a pen. And he went to go investigate why his bull was acting crazy. And he gets out there and he sees this huge 50-foot long, 20-foot high football shaped craft hovering low to the ground out in the cow pasture. And this kid, I think, was pretty surprised and shocked to see this. And this thing was emitting a noise, a beeping noise, and it had lights, and it had some kind of red vapor around it, and actually it left some evidence, physical evidence of some kind of purplish, pungent substance on the ground. And then after you watched this for a bit, the thing took off like a snap of his finger, he said. But it ended up coming back around, and other people saw it in the area as well. But this case got the attention of, I think, the highway patrol came, and two of the highway patrolmen saw the craft like within a day or two after this boy's report was taking place. And it was investigated by NICAP, the National Investigations Committee for Aerial Phenomena, but also the Air Force was involved in an investigation, and so it was taken serious. It was the not only did the boy Harold see this thing, but then later his friends and his brother saw it, and their mother, I think, also saw this. This is a hard ship craft that came down with lights and the whole bit, landing right, or didn't land. It was hovering very low to the ground right there on their property. So now it's known as the UFO farm or something. But poor kid, I'm sure, probably got a lot of razzing back in that era for that sighting that happened in 1965.
The beeping noise on that one throws me
Yeah,
off because you don't hear that very much. The beeping noise and then the vapor that was
yeah,
around
it's
it.
weird. It's weird, right? Yeah, it's strange. But again, the kids saw it at a very, like I say, it was right off, hovering around right off the ground a little bit. And what kind of a beeping noise? I don't know. It could have been, it is interesting, but definitely. Well, then it took off. I mean, again with the flash of
Yeah.
speed. It was not anything that was made by human hands. I don't believe in. Of course, you wonder why are these things going around out in these farm areas? What was the draw in that area in the first place? But it was really it's a very interesting case if you ever want to look it up for sure. And then there was another one that it got a lot of attention, and it happened in July 31st, 1966, at Presque Isle State Park, located in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is close to where I'm from. And it was a major incident. Over a dozen people reported seeing an object land on the beach. Well, I actually wrote that down, but I don't think only a small few people saw it land on the beach, but people saw it flying around right around that same time in that area. So I don't know. You can read all this stuff and then you get these mixed reports. But the key witnesses to this happened to be from my hometown, and actually, one of the key witnesses I know or knew because he was my mother's parents, the grandparents that lived on the lake. He was their neighbor, and I ended up hanging out with his younger brothers. So he was quite a bit older than I mean, because I was in 1966. I was just a 5-year-old boy, but that's when I believe I was being abducted. But the girl, her name was Betty Jean Clem of Jamestown, and her boyfriend, Doug Tibbetts from Greenhurst. Now, Doug, like I say, lived right around the corner from my grandparents. And somewhere along the line, when I was a young teenager and I was hanging out with his brothers, they told me that their brother had a UFO experience. And that caught my attention, but they're like, oh, he doesn't like to talk about it. And I was like, what? They're like, no, he doesn't want. Don't say anything to him, because I interacted with the brother occasionally. Of course, he was a an adult at that point, but they were like, yeah, no, that really bothers him. But I think he was really razzed by people. Oh, dope smoking hippies and all that kind of jazz. But the story itself truly is. I was shocked because I only saw a little mention of it in a UFO book somewhere along the line when I was a young man. And I went, oh my God, that's from my hometown area. But we didn't have the internet and all, access to all this information. So just didn't realize, unless you read a big article in the paper when it happened, all the stuff. But what happened was Doug and the girl from my hometown went to the beach, and there's another couple with them, and the girl had two small children. So they were there until it got dark, but their car got stuck in the sand at the beach on beach 6. and they were really stuck bad. So one of the guys that was with them went off to try to go find help to help get the car out from there. And while he left, they saw what looked like a star coming down. It got brighter, brighter, bigger, and then it literally came down and landed um, between a couple trees, and it was a metallic silvery sphere-shaped object. And Clem reports seeing a dark, featureless creature. So there was a creature sighting attached to this, which is even more bizarre. The girl ended up being absolutely traumatized by this whole thing. I think they took her to the hospital after, and hearing something on the roof of the car. So this is like a horror movie scenario where people are stuck; they can't drive the car. One of the guys left, and Doug's there, and they felt the car was vibrating while this craft was coming down to land, and uh, somewhere right after this thing happened, the police that were going around the park, who saw them in parked over there earlier, they went to make their rounds to tell people to get out of the park because it was after the sun sets. They want everybody out of there, and they came back, and this was right after the incident, and they were absolutely freaked out and told the police what had happened. Well, the police went around looking at things, and they saw that there were impressions. I think they may have gone back the next morning, or they may have gone in there with flashlights to take a look at whatever, but they saw that there were impressions in the sand, some strange impressions in the sand, and they believed that something really did happen just by the behavior of them. And so that was interesting. And the police find impressions in the sand near the landing site, and the Air Force reportedly launched an investigation with follow-up stories. So the Air Force came and they took plaster castings of the landing feet that were down in there was a certain circumference and depth that these things had dropped into, and they found some strange footprints as well of some kind. So I mean that's pretty bizarre. I would love to see wherever that stuff ended up, probably in a drawer in a big government warehouse somewhere. But
Yeah.
I'd love to see that myself, to see what actually came from that. But it's just a very bizarre thing, and it got quite a bit of attention in the local newspapers for a little bit. But again, people are cruel. And I know that people, were probably accusing the teenagers of making this stuff up and that, but no, I really do think that something really crazy happened. And I've heard a lot of stories around Lake Erie of things coming in and out of that lake. So, that was one of them. And then there's just, I'm just going to do headlines here. I won't get into a lot of other stuff, but other reports, UFOs, 1966, June 23rd, 1966, Hamburg, a woman sees a 3-foot lighted object uh, near the ground. It takes off like a bullet. April 11th, 1966, uh, uh, cigar-shaped object, 50 feet long, seen. April 7, 1966, Grove City, PA, silver cigar-shaped object. Again, it's probably the same exact vehicle that's being seen. April 1966, Selkirk, New York, grayish white egg-shaped object. I mean, the list just goes on and on of the stuff. So it's interesting. And I just when I started to see how much was happening there, I really was surprised uh, that there was such a. I had no idea because, like I say, no people didn't talk about it that much. There was another pretty amazing one that uh, right outside of my hometown as well, and it happened in April 26, 1966. It was in my hometown paper. of a 13-year-old boy just in a little township outside of my town, Sinclairville. He was looking out and saw a UFO across the street at a farm directly across from where he lived. And the thing came down and it was hovering around the cow pasture out there. And he ran in and told a gentleman who was visiting the family. And that gentleman happens to be from my hometown as well. And that man, 51-year-old man, ran out, saw it, and he went running across the street to go see this craft. They said it was 12 to 14 feet in diameter with lights around the edge, changing from white to red and back to white. And they had a funnel shaped beam that was being shot out from it as it was going around the fields and in some woods that were behind the farmhouse. The family that was lived on that property was unaware of that until that boy, 13-year-old boys, John Orazio, till his family went and knocked on the door of the people that lived on that property and told them what was going on. And the poor boy was worried about what the kids were going to say at school. And he was afraid when the newspaper came, and he's like, "Oh, I suppose the kids are going to make fun of me about this kind of thing." But it was really interesting. So this place was a hot spot at the exact time, and just and it goes on. And there's sightings still going on to this day in modern times. My brother is seen. He's an avid fisherman, and he's fishes out on the Chautauqua Lake. He's seen some bright light divide and then merge back together. This kind of or take off. Or there was a couple that two couples that saw an object out there that was acting weird, doing stuff, and then a little smaller object came up out of it right over Chautauqua Lake. So there are modern sightings going on, 2018, 2016, 2020, of lots of things like that. And I was talking about the Allegheny State Park, and there I was surprised to find that there were sightings going back to the 1940s, but I think some of that might have been could be part of the Kenneth Arnold's pilot, who term flying saucer came from his sighting, which was way over in Mount Rainier. But it got the attention of the country at that point. But there were numerous sightings, and some of them were from park rangers at uh, Allegheny State Park. 1941, mysterious lights. Allegheny Park Ranger. Of course, the native people already knew there were mysterious lights going on there. 1958, Chautauqua Lake. Two men. The one guy was a professor of engineering from New York University. Saw things doing gravity-defying maneuvers over the lake. Couple sees one, Lakewood, New York, 2014. So the area is still a hotbed for stuff. Anyway, so I don't want to get too. That's enough time taken on that, but it shows you there is something happening there for sure.
Oh, go right ahead, Barry.
Oh, something happening there for sure. Well, I was going to say, I think covers enough. That was enough good examples of strangeness that was going on in that area at the time, right? So the next thing I thought I would mention is talk about was lu- dreams, vivid dreams about UFOs. And you say it's just a dream, but through the years and even going back to my young childhood, I've had dreams about UFOs, and it seems like a lot of the dreams they're very vivid, and I remember them. I dream stuff all the time, and I forget them. But a lot of these dreams, they seem very vivid, and a lot of times I am on a mission or a trek to go to see these things, I feel like I'm bringing people with me to see them, or I'm just with a group of people and I'm waiting and I see crafts come down of various different kinds, or I'm just standing there and watching all different types of vehicles. And these dreams, I'm usually when I wake up and I remember them, I'm like, wow, that was really interesting. But I feel it's a kind of a nice feeling when I think about it. It's not like some War of the Worlds kind of a thing, but almost like you know something. Well, I don't know if I should say something good because I don't know, but I feel like I was glad to see whatever was going on in the dream. Um, I have had some dreams where I believe, were post traumatic events, maybe where my wife has had to wake me up, where I believe that I was, you know, on the table, examination table, and my wife hear me struggling at night and wake me up from that. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I was laying on a table," And I've noticed, that I've had some little post-traumatic moments, where I'll feel, an anxiety by certain triggers, maybe watching, and re I think when I watched the movie Fire in the Sky for the first time, even though the creatures look like little turtles out of their shell, and
Yeah.
the craft look like it's a trash heap craft or whatever. The art direction was not anything that I could relate to so much, but the fear that was brought on when the actor was on the table, and that I felt like I was getting high anxiety in the movie theater. Like I wanted to get up and run out of there, kind of thing. And it's happened to me a number of times watching, or where I'll just start to well up, like, and I could feel myself kind of like holding my breath. My wife might be sitting next to me, and I'm not saying anything, but I'm feeling like, oh God, this stuff is real. Just feel my pulse kind of a little bit. So I know that there must be some, you know, post traumatic. I use humor to cover a lot of my stuff, but there are moments when it'll hit me like, oh my gosh, this stuff is crazy. Um, but what one of the dreams I wanted to mention, really the most, was something that just it's really blows my mind. And it's a dream that I had as an adult. And the interesting thing about this dream, um, I think I had this dream probably somewhere in the mid 1990s. Um, and I remember in my dream that everything was black, and I felt wetness on under the bottoms of my feet, and it woke me up out of a trance, I guess. And I looked around and I found myself walking barefoot in the field. And I looked around and there were other people in their sleep clothes walking around, walking in this field. And everybody's going in one direction towards a light down at the end of the field by the edge of the woods. The weird part was I recognized where this was. And it was this really strange thing about this. The field was at the end of my childhood street, and I hadn't thought about this place in years, but as kids, we used to run around and play over there, and especially in the woods back there. But I look over to my right, and there's a little boy standing there, like sleepwalking. I realize that I'm in my pajamas and I'm a boy. I am like a 10 or 11-year-old boy. And I look over and there's a little boy there. And that boy is my younger brother's best buddy. And so he's around the age of 5 or 5 years old maybe, and so the time our age difference made sense, right? And I call out to him, and he snaps out of his trance, and he's like, Where are we? What's going on? And I'm like, and I hadn't thought about this kid in years. I mean, literally haven't thought about him in years. And I'm like, we're supposed to go to that light down there, and we just keep walking. And as we get closer, I realize it is a sizable flying saucer, metallic craft sitting there on the ground with a ramp, and people from my neighborhood just sleepwalking, going to the ship and up this ramp, and there's a couple of little beings out there standing there, and just as I'm entering into the craft, I wake up, but man, did that absolutely blow my mind when I woke up from that. It was so vivid. It was like it was just such a vivid, I mean, where I could feel the dew, the moisture on the bottom of my feet. And, we're walking, and everybody in the neighborhood's in their sleep clothes. I'm in my pajamas, and I'm a boy, and there's this craft. But why I woke up right at that moment, I don't know. It's just so weird. It really freaked me out. And, I started wondering, oh my God, could they be taking neighborhoods? I mean, or what did this mean? What is this? But I don't know. Something. Why did I have that dream when I did? And what's it trying to tell me?
I mean, that
There's the question.
maybe that's a case where we've heard of people saying that, I don't remember very much after a certain point, even if it's something that happens again and again. But when something of a memory tends to bleed through, you go, did they allow that to bleed through? If that is a real memory that you have, or, did they mess up? Right? Did they allow it,
Yeah,
or did they forget to flashy thing you that time?
yeah,
It makes you wonder, was that a dream, or was that a memory coming in back into your, I mean, I guess a vivid dream. You can
yeah,
call it subconscious or conscious, whatever. We don't know. We're not very sure about dreams, and we may never be, but I always wonder about
yeah.
that.
Exactly. It was highly unusual. That's for sure. Very, very detailed. It felt so real. And it was so strange to find myself being a 10-year-old kid again. I was like, wow, I'm like looking at me going, I'm in pajamas, uh, and, I was confused, like, what am I doing here? But when I woke up, I can't believe I just dreamt that. And I thought, I haven't thought of that kid in decades, and I haven't thought about that field in decades. And I haven't felt like a 10-year-old boy in decades. So it was just so weird. But again, just another head scratcher. You just high strangeness going on. But I'm thinking somehow, some reason, I was given a glimpse of something that could possibly have been happening. And of course, the house that we lived in, which we've talked about, that old house, creepy house, that's where my sister said she saw the little bald man at the end of the bed. Um, and then, of course, across the street is the boy that I saw the UFO right around that same age of what my dream was. It's just weird, all of it. You just gotta try to say, is there a connection there? Obviously, there's something happening around that area, and um, I don't know. It leaves you with more questions than answers, that's for sure. But you know, I left wondering again, unless I go through hypnosis, which I have some people that I might. Um, I'm thinking about this coming year, trying to contact somebody and making an appointment
Wow.
to proceed with that. And if I do, maybe you'll be interested in finding out the results. But
I would, of course. I mean, that would be a huge step. And, I do realize that hypnosis, certain people have, or, I mean, anybody has thoughts on it. Well, it could be leading, or there could be this or that going on. And that may be. That's another
yeah,
area that we just don't know. Just like dreaming. Like, was that a dream, or
yes,
was that a memory that just suddenly flooded
I know.
your gray matter? So it's an area
Yeah,
of contention, but at the very least, just see it as a tool, right? As a
yeah.
tool in the tool bag,
Look,
and whatever comes of that.
here's
Uh,
here's the thing. I'm never going to be able to prove any of this. This
no,
is all anecdotal here. But I'm looking for answers
for
myself.
yourself, yes, of
This has
course,
been a
of course,
this whole journey has been about me trying to go back and look at this, and also I think I go, what's this all about? But I think it's important that people that go through these things come forward and talk about them, uh, so that others can feel comfortable, because it can be a very lonely place to have to live with that kind of thing. So, maybe somebody's listening to this and thinking, wow, he came forward and started talking about this. And, there's a lot of other more detailed things that we'll get into.
yeah.
How are we doing for time? Are we out of time? Do we
Well,
have time
we've
for
got the one bullet point, right? So
one more to
may as well
go?
hit
Yeah.
that for part one.
Yeah. And, again, I say, why me? Of course, this is the big question that anybody would be asking that has some kind of an unusual experience, I suppose. And it's funny because there are, I just looking some of this stuff may have absolutely nothing to do with an abduction or anything like that. But I'm trying to figure out why would some of these creatures be interested in a child? It's got to be something to do with DNA, or I can't help but think that they may be trying to manipulate certain people at a young age to not be warlike, maybe, to be peace loving artist people and creators and scientists or other types of people that I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out, like why, because I do believe that my in my I'm sure there's many different life forms out there, but I think that some have good intentions and are worried that we are going to self annihilate if we don't start to make some serious changes quick here. And so, you know, I think that they may have tried to do something. And I also think that they probably put some kind of implant to follow people's lives around and keep, like, tagging an animal. When somebody's studying animals, they'll put a tag and try to track that animal or whatever. I think that may have been a big part of that. But you just wonder why. Why me? But there are some quirks that I thought I would just mention out of curiosity, and some of these things I've seen come up, and I was like, oh, well, okay. And but apparently I'm an oddball. So I'm a left-hander. So there's 10 to 15% of the world population who are lefties, right?
That's it.
And
That's
so
why you're
that
automatically the
must
biggest
be
weirdo.
well, it is funny though that I meet a lot of lefties, and they're artists, musicians, and
Uh huh.
rebels of some kind, right?
Yeah.
So it's quirky as it is, and I'm not correlating it too much. But you go, oh, there's people that used to be like, oh, that's the devil's hand. You shouldn't be, but
Yeah.
does the fact that somebody's left-handed, the way that their brain is wired, open them up to things? Maybe. I mean, I'm just throwing things out there. I have no idea. These are little quirky things that I started thinking about, pondering for myself, going, what is it? Why? So, that is, you know, just something I wrote down there. And then green eyes. My siblings all have blue eyes. For some reason, I said only 2% of the world's population has green eyes, which I was like, "Well, that's not a lot of people." Of course, my wife says your eye color changes depending on what color shirt you're wearing. And I don't think that there's. I think it's something to do with low melanin in your eyes that causes that. But and the typical population that are from Western and Northern Europe, like Ireland and Netherlands and Scandinavia. Well, I am predominantly Scandinavian. So that, again, probably has nothing to do with anything, but it makes you go, 2% of the world's population. That it's just kind of odd. But the other thing that I have read that, again, I have RH negative, I have A negative blood. My mother had that, but my siblings do not. And so uh, 15% of the human population have RH negative blood, apparently. Um, and I've read that a high amount of people who are abductees have the RH negative. And I'm not an expert in this at all. And only recently did I, you know, somebody had asked me that not long. I'm like, no, I don't think so. And they said, what? And I said, I have A negative. Oh, yeah, that's you. You are RH negative. I'm like, oh, okay. I always wondered, why is my blood type different than my, but I believe my mother had that blood type, and so it's just kind of interesting. But the scientists don't really understand why that negative factor exists, because it shouldn't. There's thinking so. Um, they believe that there's conjecture that something interfered with our the DNA, or within a certain group or something, that made that blood type, or a mutation of some kind.
Oh, we
So
know why that happened, don't we, Barry?
yeah,
Just kidding.
well,
Sorry. We're the
I
same.
don't
I do
know.
the same. I joke, you joke. We do this. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it makes you
It
wonder,
makes you
I
wonder,
mean,
and it's worth mentioning.
well, I figured I would, because a big part of through the years, I've always wondered, why me? Why this stuff is happening to me? Um, I'm getting over the victimization thing now, and kind of owning this by speaking about it and dealing with it. I think now sometimes I think, well, maybe if I look at it from a different angle, like, how lucky am I that I've have my mind opened up to realize that there are a lot of things going on that, you know, for some reason, a lot of people just don't seem to, who don't even want to know. They're too busy worried about their favorite football game, or their, whatever's going on in their lives. But, when you think about human beings, the planet Earth being visited by other non-human species, I mean, there isn't anything I can think of bigger than that in the history of humanity. I mean, so, that to me, like, oh my gosh, that is, we are not alone in the universe. Come on, people, that look how big the universe is. But yet people still think that, oh no, humans are the only thing out there, that the planet Earth is the only place life exists. And sometimes it's a religious belief, or they just don't want to delve into those thoughts, or whatever. But anyways, that is something that, and I says, I don't know how true it all is, but it says the highest amount of abductees are RH negative, more sensitive. I'm just wrote this stuff down. I don't know if any of it's real. It says higher than average IQ. That could be debated. I think anything that went on in the 80s, I may have destroyed that for myself. But my son, he's got a really high IQ. I like get him like annoyed with him sometimes. Like, God dang it, kid, he really is incredible. It's like if you have a kid that's a genius, and then it makes you feel kind of inferior. But um, but anyways, lower body temperature, which increased occurrence of psychic intuitive abilities.
Well,
So
you
that
definitely have that.
yeah. So some of these things actually rang a bell. The
Hmm.
left-handed thing I just think is quirky, um, but it makes me wonder if there's a way that your brain might be wired that you have an open. I'm just trying to look for answers, really, but um, yeah, of course, it says predominantly blue, green eyes, blood. I don't know if all this is factual or not, but I find things go down the rabbit hole, and pretty much, I have my other little quirks, but one of the things I had. One of them DNA tests done years ago. Not that it had anything to do with this subject, but I thought, oh, that'd be interesting to do. Of course, then they went out of business, and now I'm like, who are they selling my DNA to?
Yeah.
Uh, heck, so whoops. I don't think anybody would want to clone me, but if they did, now another thought I had about this. These abductions is that maybe there's a Noah's Ark type of there's a spaceship out there with a collection of human DNA and animal DNA and plant life seeds and things that are being collected here in case the crap hits the fan someday, um, or they want to plant life on other planets or something. My imagination gets a little wild with that sort of thing, but I'm like, some people see these beings out there digging up little plants or whatever. And I mean, obviously, they're scientifically studying the planet and they may have good reasons. And of course, if they're interdimensional, we may be sharing same space somehow. I can't. That gets way in over my head, the quantum physics stuff. But what we're doing here on this planet may be affecting them. Basically, is what, we don't know. But I found out that. So as they say, I'm predominantly Scandinavian, but there's a mix of a bunch of different things in there. But something that I thought was interesting is that they said I had more Neanderthal variants than 82% of their customers.
Oh.
So like, yeah, wow, who knew? But I thought I'm going to use that as an excuse for any time I get a little wild and crazy. I was like, that's my Neanderthal. But I thought, but
Don't
isn't that
make me
kind of
go
odd?
full caveman on you.
Oh, I could. You mess with my family, I could go
Oh,
caveman.
well, yeah.
I don't like to. I like to be the happy, nice guy, but I can surprise people. I'll roar like a lion if I had to. But Papa Bear will come and you
Oh, yeah.
will, yeah, Papa Bear. Well, anyways, I thought that was interesting. But then I thought, so somewhere along the line, I had a distant family member went over and looked around and went, yeah, Neanderthal chick is hot. but, but there it is. I was like 82%. I mean, that is wild, it's kind of interesting. And again, but if these beings have been tracing humanity and following certain lines, they may, maybe there are little specific things that are of interest to them. I thought I'd just mention it. And another thing I thought was kind of interesting was on my mother's side, they traced her haplogroups to the Sami, which are nomadic reindeer herders in Scandinavia, way up there, which is kind of interesting. And they are kept very close into their own groupings, so there hasn't been a lot of interbreeding out of their own. I mean, there's a big enough group of them that they're not marrying their cousins, I don't think, or anything like that. But they are not. They don't allow. No offense I mean, these people are amazing, but they do not just intermarry with outsiders there, but they. They're considered an ethnic group. Some of you may have seen they have these. They a lot of times they live in deer skin tents. They travel around with the reindeer herds. So I'm sure that now they probably have more permanent residents and stuff, but they stick very much to their traditions to this day. And I just thought it was interesting to see that. And they're way up in Finland, Sweden, Norway, in some even parts up in Russia, and have their own language and live a very traditional way for hundreds or not thousands of years. That's pretty much that, I guess. But things that just make you wonder, and that's what I've been doing for years, speculating and questioning things.
Yeah, that's all we can do. And I've said it many times, but if someone claims that they are an expert or they have all the answers 100%, you run.
Yeah.
You run like you and Mark ran from that UFO on that damn lake.
Yeah.
You run.
Oh yeah.
Now,
Yeah, we were running all right, but Mark is a lot faster than I was, that's for sure. I couldn't he was gone before I even realized he was gone, and then I'm trying to catch up. But I remember looking and seeing this very large glowing brightly glowing craft, and then realizing later that, oh my gosh, that very specific area was right where all kinds of other
yeah,
strange sightings have happened.
very, very busy active area. 100%.
I was surprised. I really was surprised to see that. And, all of a sudden it just opened up a whole nother world to me. I started going down that rabbit hole.
It's a
that whole
long
area.
rabbit hole. And let me say, as a caveat to what I said about the experts, because I do realize there's a lot of folks that have a lot of
spend their lives studying.
Yes,
Sure.
they have a lot of information and they are highly respected, and I take very seriously and I respect, or even people that are experiencers like yourself. You obviously have more information than someone like me on this subject because you've experienced
Not that I
this
wanted
stuff.
to. Not that
you asked for it nor deserved it, but you got it. So that I wanted to add as a caveat to my very snarky, there are no experts. That said, in fact, let's go on with this just as a little teaser for our coup de grace final Barry episode, which will be next time. We are going to be talking about the incredible, fantastic, wonderful, and highly educated and respected Bud Hopkins. So, and we're not going to get into that at all this time, but that is coming. There is a lot more to come with this subject and Barry. But Barry, again, thank you so much again for once again joining and sharing all of your information and experiences with us.
Sorry about my allergies. I took a pill today and it feels like it made things worse. So, any case, yes, thank you so much. I really had enjoyed myself, and I hope some of this stuff will trigger people's thoughts and get them out there and look up some of those cases I told you about, and you'll see all the high strangeness in Western New York.
Until next time, goodbye, everybody.